Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Vina, this is Quirky Pineapples, and today we're going to be making a quick and easy vegan apple tart. Let's get started. So to make this apple tart, we're gonna need some diced Granny Smith apples, some granulated and brown sugar, vegan butter, lemon juice, some cinnamon, ginger, and nutmeg, vanilla extract, a little bit of cornstarch to help thicken everything up, and to keep things extra simple, store-bought puff pastry dough. All right, so let's get started by making our filling. We're gonna start out with melting our vegan butter. It's gonna take a moment. Now, I know what you're thinking. This seems like a lot of butter, but we're making pastry. We're making sweets here. What's a good dessert without butter? All right. So even though that's not completely melted, we're going to add in our sugar. So remember, we're using granulated and light brown sugar. Then we're going to throw in our apples. A little bit of lemon juice, our spices, and our vanilla extract. Now, if you're not a big fan of Granny Smith apples, you can add in maybe a Gala apple or a Honeycrisp apple. Usually if I'm making like apple pie or something like that, to kind of cut through the tartness of the Granny Smith apple, sometimes I like to add a Honeycrisp apple to sort of balance out the flavors a little bit. But for this, since we're adding a pretty good amount of sugar, I think the Granny Smiths will be enough. And as we cook the apples down, they're going to release a lot more of their juices, and the sauce will start to loosen. So then what I'm going to do is add in a little bit of cornstarch. And what that cornstarch is going to do is thicken up our filling. So we're going to cook this down for about 10 minutes until our apples start to soften, and then we will allow it to cool for a little bit and start to fill our pastry. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes. So what we're going to do is allow this to cool down, because as it cools down, it'll thicken even more, which will be really good for the inside of our puff pastry. We don't want our filling to be runny when we put it in the oven. Now, I always say while you're cooking, give whatever it is that you're cooking or baking a test to make sure that it's absolutely the flavor that you want it to be. Okay, so I know it's hot, be careful. I'm gonna be careful. Oh yeah. All right, so that's the perfect flavor. The apples are not too soft. We don't want them to be mushy or anything like that. We want them to have a little bit of bite left in them. But one of the reasons that we cook the apples down before putting it in the oven is to give them an opportunity to release some of that juice, kind of mix together with the cornstarch and all the flavors, and become a little bit more cohesive. All right, so I'm gonna set this off to the side, allow it to cool, thicken up a little bit, and then we'll get started on preparing our puff pastry dough. Alrighty, so now it's time to prepare our pastry dough. As you can see, I've already kind of unfolded it. The idea of this is just to make it a little bit bigger so that it can wrap around our apple filling. So I'm going to be really gentle and just do a back and forth. Like I said, just to stretch it out a little bit, to give me a little bit more surface area for my filling. Now this doesn't have to be a perfect square or anything like that. This one's a little bit more rustic. If you really wanted to get fancy, you could, you know, sort of trim around the edges a little bit, but we're not going to do that today. I also really don't want to waste any puff pastry dough, so we're going to use all that we have in this one. All right, so that's actually pretty good. So now we can go on to start adding our apple filling to the middle. All right, so my apple filling is nice and cooled off now. And so I'm just gonna add our apples to the middle. I'm gonna try and use all of this. It seems like a lot, but after it bakes and the pastry dough starts to puff up really nicely, it'll be the perfect amount of filling and crust. Alrighty. And then as you can see, that filling got nice and thick. So now I'm gonna smooth this out just a little bit into a nice little layer. And now I can start folding the dough over the filling. Now, like I said, it's gonna look really rustic. Almost looks like a little crunch wrap when you're all done. And then I'm going to brush the pastry dough with a little bit of melted butter and about a half teaspoon of some of my syrup from my filling. Usually when you're working with puff pastry dough, in a conventional sense, you would use egg, right, to put an egg wash on, but we're not using egg today. So what this will do is, one, give it a nice buttery kind of crust, but by adding a little bit of that sugary, thick, syrupy filling, it will help the pastry to brown really nice and golden. I don't know if you notice sometimes when you're baking something that doesn't have egg or milk, that sometimes it has a hard time really browning up in the oven. This helps with that problem. I mean, usually, you know, still tastes the same, but you want it to look appetizing, right? And then another optional thing that you could do with this is if you have maybe some turbinado sugar or some coarse cane sugar, you could sprinkle on some coarse cane sugar just to make it fancy. All right. I'm telling you, make this for your friends and family, and they'll think that, one, that it's not vegan, and two, that you really have your bacon-ish together. It's gonna look really professional. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this on our baking pan. And then I'm gonna bake it in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes on 400 degrees until it's nice and puffy and flaky and brown and golden and all that good stuff. All right. All right, so our apple tart is now out of the oven. It's completely cooled. So this should serve probably about 4 to 6 people, depending on how large the slices you want them to be. But I'm gonna go ahead and sort of, or cut it up and plate it, throw some ice cream on it, and we're gonna do a taste test. Let's see. Ooh, nice and flaky. It's getting pastry flakes everywhere. Good problems, right? Alrighty. Let's see. some of those apples. All right, and then we have our ice cream. You don't have to put ice cream on it, but it's my serving suggestion. I mean, kind of like apple pie a la mode. Oh, I don't have a spoon or anything. Hold on. Does that make lots of noise? Okay, I've got a spoon now. All right, let's give it a taste. I think you can kind of hear the flaky crust. Ooh. It's still nice and hot. So our pastry, nice and flaky, buttery, all that good stuff. That filling was on point. I highly recommend that you follow like the filling recipe if you want to make a pie or any other type of apple filled dessert. But it's not too sweet. The apples aren't super tart. They're not incredibly like mushy. No one really wants mushy apples in their dessert. And then pair it with some ice cream and you've got pretty much a perfect, quick, easy dessert to serve to your family, or just on a night where you feel like having something quick and easy as a sweet after dinner. So yeah, if you decide to make this recipe, make sure that you leave a comment below. Let me know how you like it. The full recipe is on quirkypineapples.com. I'll put my QR code here for you as I usually do. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you so much for joining me again. Have a great day.